So before I start the session, like I would have 1 minute of gratitude. So see, when I close my eyes and think of REVA, the first thing which comes to my mind is empathy, compassion. So I have a very deep connect with, I'm a consultant, so I work with a lot of people. But with REVA, I have a very deep connection because there's a lot of compassionate people at the leadership. Shainu ma'am, we've collaborated for autism prediction competition, and they do a lot of social work for people with learning difficulties and things like that. It's been great collaborating with Shainu ma'am. These are areas where there's a lot of stigma attached to it. Not many organization take up such social causes very boldly. And with REVA, I was very fortunate to do that collaboration. Earlier this year, we ran a Kaggle competition. It was sponsored by Swiss Re, Terra Logic. So that was something which I would like to thank ma'am for, for doing that. And with that, we'll get started with the session. So it will be a shorter session. Maybe we'll have a lot of time for questions. And so it is although the topic is key trends in artificial intelligence, it's just a combination of a lot of topics covered for somebody who's starting up their master's program, what all doubts they might have in their mind. So what are the concerns? So we're covering a very, very diverse landscape of topics here, not just the trends. So yeah. So some of the key research trends in 2022, I think the landscape of AI has been changing very, very fast. So what has been trend 2 years back is different, is almost like considered outdated right now. And right now, there are a lot of trends which are coming up, quantum computing. So quantum computing, I think we had somebody from Kindred, and so IBM is a big name in the quantum computing space. They do a lot of very, very interesting stuff. And some of my very good friends are in to teaching quantum computing for IT Madras from IBM. IBM is like pioneer in quantum computing. They do a lot of stuff. There's a lot of problem statements right now where supercomputers even fail. So you take, I mean, many big institutions like ISC, they have like supercomputers. Even these supercomputers cannot solve certain problems like protein folding, a lot of problems which is related in drug discovery, and a lot of problems which is related to chemical reactions. Because even if you take green revolutions and a lot of things where we wanted to bring down the pollution, or we lot of use cases related to climate change. We wanted to reduce the emission of carbon dioxide and all that. One of the ways you can reduce these carbon dioxide emissions is to replace it with an alternate component. To discover that alternate component, you can do that using AI. So to discover that, I think you need a very huge computational space. A normal supercomputer or even the best of best supercomputers cannot solve such problems. You need quantum computers to solve that problem. So quantum computing is right now evolving, and there are a lot of courses which is coming up in quantum computing as well. And IBM specifically, I think, is leading that space in India really well. And you also have AI in the metaverse. I think metaverse is going to be the next big thing for quite some time in the future. So there are a lot of use cases of AI and metaverse. So for example, if you see a bot communicating with you, when you take any call center operations or any apps or any website you open, immediately there's a pop-up coming up and a bot communicates with you. Or even Swiggy. Swiggy, the first thing before it connects me to the customer service operator, I think that's a bot which talks to me for first 2 minutes, and then it finds out my problem and then connects with the real human. So that short interval where you interact with technology, you really can get a deeper level of connection. What if you have a human avatar or something which gives you the real world feeling of really communicating with a human? It feels much more like human. So there's a lot of AI which is used in the metaverse, different use cases. I've just highlighted one of them. And digital health and precision medicine, I think this is something which is very close to me. So India, we have to particularly talk about health. So we have very few number of doctors. And the number of patients is, the population of India is too huge, and the number of doctors is very limited, and the number of specialists is even more limited, and no doctor is willing to travel to the remote place. How many doctors are interested to go set up in the remote place? So we definitely have a shortage problem. And there are certain diseases, if you take, by the time they come to a tier one city for the proper treatment, the travel or the distance where they travel itself, a lot of people lose their life. So healthcare is one of the biggest problems we need to understand. And fortunately, AI can solve many of the healthcare use cases these days. At least you can reduce the number of specialist visits you make to an organization. See, any breast cancer prediction, these may not be the only thing. See, we should definitely have human in the loop when it comes for AI use cases, healthcare use cases, because you can't let an AI to take the final level of decision. You should definitely have human in the loop, but at least it reduces the number of specialist visit. Or a lot of things can be, I mean, the total duration of detecting if you have a disease or not. It might take 12 months or 6 months earlier. Now you can get it in 5-10 minutes. You can get the report in 5-10 minutes. A lot of things have been simplified by AA. So it's definitely something which I'm looking forward to. And when it comes for precision, again, all of these key trends which are mentioned here, I'm not like discussing breadth and length of all of it. I'm just highlighting few use cases, but these are like broader, broader areas where there's so many use cases. I'm just highlighting one of them, and which I'm highlighting something which I can connect to. But you can always dig up these research spaces, and you'll find plenty of use cases which you can do as your capstone project as well. And precision medicine. So I was very fortunate to work a couple of years back with genomic data scientists. We were working on a lot of genomic data science problems. And precision medicine is definitely something which might revolutionize the healthcare industry. See, right now we have, like, if you have cold, you go to, I don't even go to a doctor. If I have cold, I just go to a pharmacy. I'll say I have cold, and they just give me a random medicine. But these kind of generalized medicines don't work that well. Each and every person has a different set of genes and a different set of behavioral pattern. So not everyone who has cold will respond properly to a certain medicine, because every human being has a different set of conditions. So there's a strong need for personalized medicines. So AI plays a huge role. Specifically, there's a lot of use cases in genomic data science, specifically, which is coming up. If those, there are open problem statements, there are problem statements which looks very promising, but how do you convert it into a device or something which can be actually used as a challenge? But there are a lot of use cases, promising use cases, which if executed well, can revolutionize the precision medicine. So instead of having a generalized medicine, for cold or fever, you can get a very personalized medicines for your body type, for your preferences. You might be sensitive to certain things. You might not be able to tolerate certain kind. If medicines contain certain, chemical, you might not have tolerance for that chemical. So that, this one size fits all may not work in healthcare. And so we are moving towards this precision medicine, and AI can play a huge role with it. He worked in some of the use cases. So this is a very, very promising area. And then you have data privacy. So again, data privacy is a very, very huge space, but I'm just covering something which is very interesting for me, and something like federated learning, which is coming up. And there's a lot of research work and research papers which has come up in the interface of data security and privacy and AI. And if you take a lot of use cases from healthcare, they cannot be implemented as a product because of security concerns. There's a lot of huge volumes of data being generated, but you can get insights from those data, but for it to work as a proper product in the industry, there are a lot of hurdles which are there. So some of the hurdles are related to privacy concerns, which prevents that data being, converted into a product which can be consumed by people, because you cannot, there are certain constraints where, users' identity cannot be exposed. There's a lot of privacy concern with regards to healthcare specifically. So technologies like federated learning, where you don't have to send the data to the cloud. You can at the data source itself, you can do inference. There's so many technologies which is coming in the data privacy area, where previously in the domains where it was considered impossible to work on because of data privacy issues, these technologies are opening doors for solving those problems. So federated learning is really an interesting area to look forward to. You have a lot of open source frameworks which are coming up, like OpenMind. You have TensorFlow federated as well, something from the TensorFlow ecosystem. And so that is also very interesting area. And data as a service. There, I think all of you might have got mails from data labeling companies for sure, because I get at least one or two calls a week, and like too many mails. I am from a data labeling agency. You have any data labeling work in your startup? Please let me know, because there are a lot of data as a service companies right now coming. It could be anything like you have a use case where you just give a use case. This is a use case and we want the data to be collected. These agencies actually set up the data collection process, do all of that for you, and they collect the data and curate it and give it to you. So this data as a service is really a big thing, because even recently I attended this conference Cypher, where I met a lot of people, a lot of organizations whose main specialty is data collection, because doing that data collection is a huge process and it takes a really, really long time. Personally, in my startup Exa Protocol, for us, it took us 6 months to actually devise a data collection process, then set up 100 volunteers, go to multiple universities in India, collect data the way we wanted. So it's a really, really long process, and there are a lot of organizations who are specializing, third-party vendors who specialize in data collection process. So this is a big industry which is coming up, and edge intelligence and VAR, AR. So there's a lot. These are some of the trends which I see coming up. And for you to pick up some use cases for your capstone projects, you can look at these trends. Maybe I have put an exhaustive list in the AI space. For cybersecurity people, I think there's quite interesting use cases as well. Yeah, with regards to cloud computing trends in 2022, so some of the trends which I see are hybrid multi-cloud architecture. You also have AI, ML, and the automation. So surprisingly for me, having worked with a lot of organizations, particularly early stage startup, where we build models, I've never worked in any organization for consulting where we used AutoML. So predominantly my work will be like developing a custom model architecture for solving their use cases, or they would have an existing use case where the model is not performing well. So that's when they come to consultants. So I've never dealt with any early stage startups. At least for me, in my experience, I've never worked with early stage startups. Then there was one conference which I attended 2-3 months back, Data IQ, and it was Bangalore Data AI conference or something organized for them. There I saw all top companies coming up, like big names in financial industry, big names in healthcare, big names in retail. They were all displaying their AutoML use cases, which they, are using currently for their systems. I was quite surprised. So there's a lot of automations, and there's a lot of scope for automation of end-to-end systems. So Data IQ itself, which I'll be covering a little later, it's one of the enterprise end-to-end, platform for data science, from data collection to data deployment to, monitoring your data. So it takes care of MLOps. It takes everything you need related to data science is offered in a single product. And the best thing is you don't have to be some PhD in machine learning to operate it. Even somebody from 8th standard, 10th standard can operate that product. It's that simple. It's drag and drop. And so anybody who knows how to use a mobile app will definitely be able to handle data IQ. It's that simple. There were booths outside where they were displaying how to solve a basic use cases, problems and stuff. So anybody, it's all drag and drop, which anybody can handle. If you know how to handle a mobile app, then you should be able to handle end-to-end data science problem using that app. So they were using that product. So they were showing demo of it outside. So it's that easy. So there's a lot of data IQ is something which I'm giving it as one example, but there's so many platforms like that which are automating the end-to-end data science process where you can do everything with a single click and things like that. So that's definitely a trend which I see. But there could be a lot of reasons for adoption of auto ML in this. There are few areas, few use cases where you don't want to take risk and you want auto ML is definitely considered a safe bet by many organizations. And I also see a lot with the hybrid and hybrid cloud is something which I see a lot of organizations adopting as well, because a lot of organizations and a lot of domains, they don't feel a certain part of their data should be in cloud. They feel safe when it is in their private servers within the organization. So hybrid cloud computing is something which I definitely see a big trend. It's already a trend right now as well. And I mean, with regards to security and compliance, and there's also like new cloud technologies. I mean, it's already cloud native apps is already current trend, which is there, and I think it will continue to be a good trend in the near future as well. And I see a lot of cybersecurity people out here. So I work in a startup where we deal with cybersecurity use cases, but it's not like a professional, traditional cybersecurity kind of use cases, but we deal with, it's a blockchain startup where we use this. It's similar to Google Drive, and it's similar to a storage system for the web. We are creating a storage system for the mobile. So we have use cases where different penetrators might attack our system. We have use cases where we have to prevent them or identify them. So those are use cases which I'm currently working for my startups. But you have plenty of use cases with regards to cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. It could be anything, like you have a network traffic and you have a certain pattern which you want to match, pattern of invasion. Previously you might have several attacks in the network and you have that fingerprint and you want to match that fingerprint in your network traffic to find out if anybody is attacking your systems. Or you can do, even you have use cases with regards to anomaly detection, because if it is very easy, if cybersecurity people who want to like invade your system are not going to be like, are not going to have do it in a very straightforward way. They'll follow an indirect way where they will impersonate somebody, or a lot of things might be in a very indirect way or a complicated way where humans cannot easily identify. So there are a lot of use cases with regards to anomaly detection as well, to find out any abnormal patterns in the network. And you have multiple use cases with regards to cybersecurity, but I think all of it depends on finding the right kind of data. With regards to cybersecurity and AI, when you take use cases in the AI, a brief familiarity with cybersecurity is sufficient, but for dealing with, I think the primary thing for us is the data, getting the data in the right format. It's going to be very, very challenging, because for our current company, we've spent 6 months collecting the data. And then finally, we realized the data is not in the proper format. We have made some flaws in the data collection process. So the whole 6 months is a waste for us. And then we had to go back again, revise the data collection strategy. So getting the data correct is going to be a huge challenge, more than the domain knowledge. Having a good domain knowledge really helps, but it's not the only thing. I think the data collection the right way might be a huge challenge here. And so with regards to few things, see, data science tools and technologies, I think every week there is some 4 or 5 tools which is coming up. So covering all those tools is going to be like really, really difficult. So I'm from TensorFlow. I lead TensorFlow user group community for Mysuru. I lead a lot of open source communities, and I also lead the Google developers group communities, Google cloud communities as well. And also there's a lot of products which is coming up. TensorFlow and PyTorch have been the most famous frameworks for machine learning, deep learning algorithms. But right now we are moving towards JAX. So JAX is going to be the future of machine learning and deep learning research. Personally, JAX is even new for me. I mean, there's a whole, I am very good with TensorFlow, but JAX is going to be a whole new learning curve. The ecosystem who uses JAX is very limited. So if you're stuck somewhere with some kind of a problem, you Google out, you'll not get an option. Or you even look around for help, nobody around you is going to be a JAX expert. There are very, very few people who specialize in JAX. And there are other frameworks which are built on top of JAX like Flax, HiQ, and this, there's a lot of framework coming from DeepMind itself. So JAX is predominantly coming from Google and Google DeepMind, Google Research and DeepMind as well. They've contributed a lot to this open source framework. And so one of the best things about JAX, see, I've not worked a lot in JAX, but there are a few experiments, implementation of research papers. Personally, I've tried out. I've tried some tabular data papers, implementation, deep learning papers, transformer-based papers. I've implemented it both in TensorFlow and I implemented both in JAX. So it is like JAX is 7 times faster. So when we have problems with compute power and things like that, you can actually start using JAX. You will realize how powerful it is. There are certain operations which can be done really, really powerful there. But it's an upcoming ecosystem, so the help and all that you'll not get it that easily. But it's coming up very fast. It's picking a lot of organizations have already started using JAX. So I would definitely recommend you look up what JAX is and get started with early on. And so this is what I've been talking to you about end-to-end enterprise data science framework. So there's a rise of end-to-end enterprise data science framework which is coming up these days. Like some of my favorite is, I think it's not Vertex.ai, it's Vertex AI. And you have Data IQ, you have Catonic. .ai. This is it's an it's Indian grown startup. I think Data IQ is from France and Vertex AI is from Google Cloud. I think you have similar thing for AWS and you have similar kind of products in Azure as well. Almost every cloud provider has this end-to-end data science framework where it's all automated. A lot of things is automated. You don't have to be a scientist to actually start operating all these things. It's just a click of a button. And with just few minutes around the product, you will get a hold of it. So it makes, there are a lot of frameworks which has come up which makes the entire data science process easier, which is a good thing because there are so many problems in the world currently which has to be solved. Instead of like focusing on how to do it, in the machine learning research and all that space, you can solve a lot of domain spaces. A lot of PhD scientists who has very good knowledge on the problem statement and who has the right kind of data and everything. But he doesn't have to interface with a machine learning scientist to get the problem solved. They themselves can get started with the end-to-end data science framework, get their problems solved very quickly. See, it may not be the complete problem which is going product which is going to be deployed there. At least you'll be able to do a quick prototypes of various ideas you have. And when you do try out different prototypes, you identify the right direction to go. Then you can sit with a machine learning scientist, get it solved, the proper way and all that. But initially, to get, to try out various ideas you have, I think these kind of end-to-end enterprise data frameworks are really good, particularly for people who are coming from PhD background and environmental science, climate change. They can get started with solving the problems very faster. And this is till now I've been talking about the trends and all that things. But the next few minutes I'm going to talk about after you complete your master's degree, all of you want to get into jobs. So I've been in the hiring committee for various organizations where I've hired on behalf of various organizations. I've also hired for my own startups, but I generally hire interns for my startup. For other organizations, it's of people from different level. So I see some kind of a trend in that hiring process. So it's just my experience of how I see the trend and what makes, what are the factors which actually are important for getting a candidate placed and all these. These are my insights and from my experience. So, there could be a lot more outside my experience as well. So don't consider it as the only source. It's just collection of my experience in the hiring space. And so most of the jobs which I see the job categories right now in machine learning might fall under different categories. But the broad categories which I see is something which is the domain space data science roles and something which is purely the data science research. So if you take even a company like Google, so they have a lot of people who are like cloud engineers and who are customer engineers, Google Cloud customer engineers. So these are people who sit with the customer, get to know their domain problems. They don't know everything about data science, research kind of thing. They just are more like a business analyst who might interface with the client, get to know the problem statements. They might do a little bit of analysis here and there, but it's not like and they might use the existing frameworks and platforms, which doesn't require that kind of an extensive coding. It might require some knowledge of programming and things like that, but it's not like that kind of a research where you come up with your own architecture for research paper publications, or you don't come up with some kind of a patent level work and all. It's like basic work, but you need to have a good understanding of the frameworks and tools. You need to understand the ecosystem, how things work, how to convert a business problem into a problem statement, business use case into a problem statement, how to refine it. So there are a lot of skills involved. It's like not very heavy on the technical side where you don't come up with your own algorithm, new algorithm kind of thing. So it's those kind of roles I generally categorize it as domain-based data science roles. And there are roles where companies hire specifically for a research department itself. So Adobe Research or Google Research or Microsoft Research, there are organizations where the main goal is to publish research papers and get patents and also those kinds of jobs. So I would broadly categorize into these two categories. So you should identify where what kind of job you want, rather than being in a job and 2 years down the lane, you feel something is not clicking in and things like that. It's good to have an insight of what you really want and go after it. And different job roles again thing, like different people will have different skill sets. Some I've taken a couple of batches for race, one is for computer vision and NLP. I found a very mixed candidates as well. Some of them have never programmed, some of them have 15 years of programming in Java and .NET. So any programming language, it's a transferable skill irrespective of whatever programming language you work. You've been good in some programming language, you'll do extremely well in Python, because Python is very easy and compared to Java or .NET or whatever it is. So there are mixed set of people. So some people may not want that kind of a heavy programming stuff, creating their own algorithms, publishing papers. That's not for them. So they just want to be in data science, solve real world problems and all that, but not do that heavy technical lifting and all that. So you have a lot of roles for that as well. So data science, you have wide spectrum of roles. A lot of people see only the two roles, like this machine learning engineer, data scientist, deep learning engineer. These are the roles which are very famous, but there are a lot more other roles out there. So I want you all to find out early on what are your top skills. Identify early on before even you start your master's program. You should always, it's not just for master's program or getting job. It's always important for any individual to identify what your strengths are and what you really want. When you don't have that clarity, you'll get into a lot of problems. So it's very important. Identify first, get to know yourself, and find out what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. Doing that is very important, not just for a job search or finding doing a master's. It's very important for you for other aspects of life as well. And so if you feel you like interacting with people, but you want to do data science, you like interacting with people, customers, clients facing. So you have jobs like client facing data scientists. They have to know everything about AI. But at the same time, there should be people who can quickly catch up with new domains. I was acting as a client facing data science sales on behalf of some startup. So I was thrown one day. I'm not coming from semiconductor background. So I was there. It's one of the only plant in India which manufactures those chips and things like that. It's based out in Electronic City. So I was asked to go to this startup, and I'm from a computer science student, so I don't know anything about not too much into electronics. And they started, see, there are people, higher level executives who want to use, they have what they want is they wanted to use AI because all of their competitors are using AI. So they don't know the use cases of what exactly they want to use AI. So they're just talking about their business on and on and on. So my job is to identify the use cases from their conversation and also find out how to use AI. So, developing. So in a very short span of time, I should pick up the domain knowledge of semiconductors and have a conversation with them. So somebody who's able to pick up several domains in a very short span of time is a very key skill. And also have good negotiation skills. Soft skills is very important. Those are senior level executives with certain kind of semiconductor is a bit of a conservative energy since I've dabbled with a lot of other industries as well. Again, it's all my personal perspectives. I wouldn't want to take you as de facto standards from what I say. This is very much limited to my personal experience. So I just found out, for me, I felt semiconductors was a bit of a very, very conservative industry compared to the other. They're like not exposed to that kind of a technology and things like that. So a lot of people skills which I had actually helped me in the entire deal. What went through, I think, more than any other skills, I would say it's actually the people skills, negotiation skills. Those are the soft skills which actually help me in getting that deal. So client facing data scientists, you have to be an excellent communicator, somebody who can pick up a lot of things on the go. It could be any kind of skill you'll have to pick up on the go. It's a very interesting job. And, I don't know, a lot of people enjoy it. And it's a very high paying job as well. So these are some of the roles which not many people are aware of. And you also have developer advocates. Developer advocates get some of the see, one way to become very famous is to be a developer advocate of top company. They do all the branding for you. Like they are more famous than all that Yale Kun and all these. They're more developer advocates will be more famous than that because the company does all the branding for them. They become an international celebrity and they're well paid as well. So those are kind of jobs also available. Just don't narrow yourself to certain roles alone. There are so many jobs, so find out your strengths so that you can find out the right job for you. And there are several leadership roles like head of data science and things like that. See, again, differs from company to company. So my organization is an early stage startup where we hire only interns. And we hire for every use case we hire interns. We don't hire some interns, use them for all. So for every use case requires a different kind of skills. And for each use case, I go to an organization, hire the interns. That's how I do. But different organization has got different hiring requirements and stuffs like that. It is for me. Uh, yeah. So I think I've covered all the evangelist is also another role. Are you very good with social media marketing and this data science evangelist is very much upcoming field which has a lot of demand because there are so many. For example, there are so many MLOps platforms which is coming up. See, the platform is developed already, and so they don't require much of a data scientist, data engineers, and all that. They have already developed an end-to-end enterprise platform. What they actually want is the organization wants to market that platform to all over the world, get a lot of people to start using it. So data science evangelism is also like a top well-paying job which is coming up. And so identify what you developer relations who are like community managers kind of thing. But they have to understand everything about data science, but they're actually community managers getting more users to use their platforms. So this is a wide data science manager. So if you're already a manager and you wanted to switch to a data science project and be a manager for that, you may not necessarily deal with heavy lifting code and all that. But it's again, you instead of being a manager for a software engineering project, now you are a manager for a data science project, and these are also some of the roles. Especially if you are, already in a leadership position and you want to transition. And the final slide for the day, where it is just with regards to how to stand. See, for like 3 positions, we got around 800 resumes. This was from IIT Bombay. I wanted to like just hire 3 interns, but the number of resumes which had come out was enormous. And it's just one university where we filtered out and we got so many resumes. So the competition is very, very high. So it's very, very important that you stand out from the crowd. And some of the ways you can stand out is the first thing which any organization will check. If it's a little bit of a technical role and not a managerial role and kind of, the first thing is they'll ask you is for your GitHub profile. And right now they also ask for, if you have it as a personal website. For me, I like people who actually have a personal website where they put their code, they would have done a lot of public speaking engagements, they would have written blogs, they would have made YouTube videos, everything can be listed in a personal profile. So it's also good to invest time to have a good personal website or a GitHub. Right now, they also, if it's a data science role, some companies even check out Kaggle profile as well. And research paper publications is something which people see. When I was teaching the NLP and computer vision students in class, we used to discuss a lot of interesting ideas. The students used to come up with very, very interesting ideas. And see, these interesting ideas, just don't have these interesting ideas and not put it in ready. Instead of, when you have these interesting ideas, try to solve that problem, write it as a research paper and publish it. So initially you may not get that flow really perfect. At the first paper will not go to the top conference. So there'll be a lot of rejections in the beginning. Don't give up. Research paper publications are really, really well respected. It will make you stand out from the crowd because so many people have so many certifications, so many courses and all that. But the unique stand, or something which will make your profile stand out, I think is a research paper publication. Not many people will put that kind of an effort to take a use case, do that, incremental work and all these iterations. So it takes some kind of a very, very dedicated work. So having some research paper publications in your profile really helps. If you find you don't have that bandwidth to do it alone, you can also team up within your cohort and publish few research papers. So put all your ideas into best use, and patents is also very good. You have a patenting skill in ways, so you can make use of the best use of it. Try to get as many patents as possible. And right now, see, even if you apply for a data scientist role where you're not going to deal with model deployments or maintaining the infrastructure and all that, you're not may not do it as a part of your job role. But it's also be good to have familiarity with certain technologies. You don't have to be an expert, but being understanding what it is and having a basic level of familiarity is always add value to your profile. So if you have to establish that kind of a familiarity, I would recommend GCP or Azure or AWS. Have certifications in one of the cloud providers. It's not necessarily you should be top expert in all of it, but one cloud providers, if you have certification, catching up with the other is being very easy. So at least choose whatever works for you, and certain organization supports the payment of certain certifications as well. They might be partnered with a company, so the employees can use all the free quick labs, and the company will reimburse the certification fees, and also different companies will support different technology. So find out if your company is an AWS partner or Google GCP partner or something where you can get your certification payment reimbursed, or you can use quick labs free of cost and things like that. Find out like your organization is, each organization might be different, and find out that and try to get some certifications, or at least have some proof that you're familiar with some cloud technologies, familiarity with ML ops. Don't have to be an expert, but even if you're applying for a data scientist role, the role doesn't require you to do any model deployments. Also, it's good to be familiar with these platforms, which will make you stand out from the crowd. And write a lot of blogs while you're doing a master's. Every week you're learning. Every 4 weeks you'll be into NLP, or 4 weeks into computer vision. Try to, for each course, try to put out 2 blogs. So these are additional things which will make a portfolio stand out. It could be there are so many analytics. Vidya is there, data analytics, Indian Anderson analytics insight. You have KD Nuggets. There are so many publications. Towards Data Science is a famous publication. I'm just telling you the data science ones. I think for cybersecurity, you will have different set of publications which are famous in that field, where you can write articles and you can send it to those publications. And towards data science, I think the acceptance rate is very, very high. I see a lot of my friends contributing to it. So pick out some publications, start contributing, and also if your conferences is something which I would really recommend for job search. If you're into job search, choose. You may not have bandwidth to attend every conference which is happening in city. Choose your conferences. But there are certain conferences where all the top level hiring person, the decision making authorities who are for hiring, they come to those conferences. The reason why which I attended Cypher, I think it was the best conference they had. Like almost every company who had the booth there, they were hiring. And almost all people who came there are not really that strong data scientists, but they're all decision makers in terms of hiring. So there are people who actually hire candidates, all top level leadership had come there. So such conferences, choose your conferences where you can network directly, meet with the executives directly, or the person who's responsible for hiring, director of engineering who's hiring for 7 positions in the role. So you can meet them directly, network instead of doing a cold calling or cold messaging in LinkedIn. It makes more impact when you meet them in a person. And they were hiring booths. You carry 30 resumes, meet a lot of people, hand over the resumes in person. So networking through conferences or networking through meetups, whatever platform you get for networking is good. Make the best use of it. A lot of job positions are getting filled up because of networking and recommendations. So I think I would recommend that as well. So these are just my recommendations and my observations in the hiring space. This is not the de facto standards. Whatever I said is not the de facto standards. So there are a lot more outside what I've said as well. Go and explore that as well. With that, I'll end my talk. And thank you, Sandhu, and all of them for giving this opportunity.
You can write a paragraph how they learn. Can you write all of this? Can you post it? Don't worry about what people do. Can you post it in LinkedIn? That's where we start. We start. We are there with you. We will not ask you to do a patent in technical document in LinkedIn. So any questions to Usha? Sure. You got a lot of tips. First is that you go and check what are these companies about, and maybe connect with some of the founders. Or so many people are open to it. I'm sure even Kindle president is open to networking, right? So that is how the disruption is. But you have to take that. Right? So any questions, Usha?
Sure, I would like to know can throw more lights on the trends in VR and AR.
Virtual and augmented reality, I'm not an expert in that field, but I see a lot of VR AI startups coming up. Naveen Manasvi, he's one of the person who's having a VR AR startup. Just check out. He's having a startup which is Wow EXP. I think Wow EXP or something. There are some
Samsung best.
He's ex-Samsung guy, yeah. So there are a lot of startups which have the similar kind of use case where you can just try out any costumes, or you can if it's a home decor company, you can see how the equipments, how the home decor will fit in a virtual world. And so there are so many retail space, retail use cases which I see in the AR VR space. And in the VR space, one unique use case which I came across was once I'm an advocate for autism. So I was in Infosys giving a session for autism awareness. There was a data scientist and his wife is a psychiatrist who came to me and they told they've developed some kind of VR technology where parents of autism people are exposed to so much stigma in the society. They look down on them and all. So a lot of them cannot tolerate. And even yesterday, I was watching a video where an autistic father and the mother, both of them are sitting and they're talking about their autistic child. And the father is saying, it is very, a lot of parents, a lot of things which they can't achieve, they want their children to achieve. That's something which is very, very strongly rooted in their deep belief system. Very, very few parents are open-minded and all. But at the subconsciousness, we want our kids to be this, we want our kids to be that, and all that. So when you have that kind of expectation, so a lot of parents cannot come to accepting the fact that their child is autistic and things like that. That's why a lot of fathers specifically abandon, and there are a lot of single mothers who are taking care of autistic kids. So there's a lot of stigma in that society. So the Infosys data scientist, what he has done is he has created a VR virtual reality based applications where you can put a headset and the parent will be exposed to all kind of stigma in the society in the virtual world that he'll almost be used to it, and by the time when he really faces in the real world, he'll not feel that kind of any kind of an emotion towards it, or he would have already known how to handle that situation. So this was a project. This is actually a startup idea which he was coming up with. So the endless possibilities for VR and AR startups. It's just that I'm not a specialist in that area, so I've not touched about it while in my presentation. But there's a lot of use cases. It's something which is definitely a space where you should look out for. There are a lot of Indian homegrown startups out there, so definitely watch out for that. So, any other questions you have? So the answer which might I might give, might be more with coming from my own experiences. So if you see the actual reality in early stage startups, I work for an early stage startup. There is no such thing like AI engineer or ML engineer or DL engineer. There is one data scientist who does every problem: machine learning, data science, AI, whatever it is. So my grouping of these terminologies would be AI is an umbrella term where all the use cases we have still not achieved that artificial general intelligence yet. That is, machines can't start thinking like humans. So we have not reached that era yet. But we still can do some innovations and insights with the help of data. So I would group all of this ML, data science, and all these buzzwords into a single umbrella framework, AI. And within machine learning and within AI, I would broadly classify as machine learning and deep learning. So some broad level, see, these are not only defining, classifying characteristics, but at the broad level, if you see, most of the machine learning problem statements are where you have handcrafted features. For example, credit card fraud prevention, or home price, house price prediction. I'm giving basic examples so everyone can connect to. House price prediction, you need to have certain set of features to predict the price of a house. What are those features? When was the house built? How much is the area of the house? How many floors it has? Is it close to a school? These are set of features which you have to classify to predict the price of the house. So these are features which is handcrafted, the price of the house, when it was built, and how many floors it has. It's a handcrafted features. But you have certain image classification problems or NLP problems where you don't have any handcrafted features. It's the algorithm which itself, you're just giving an image. The algorithm itself will generate features from it. So at the broad level, I think there is a difference in terms of machine learning and deep learning. If you see, there's a huge difference in terms of how the features are. Is it a handcrafted features or the algorithm itself generates features? That's a broader level differentiation I would put. There's other level in terms of data type, in the earlier days, I mean, when the AIs, I mean, traditionally, if you see, machine learning have always been centered around tabular data problems. But I think that is slowly changing right now. There are a lot of tabular data is the Excel form kind of data and CSV and all that. So this tree-based model, decision tree, I think all these terminologies you might have heard about, XGBoost, all these decision tree-based models have been the best models to go for tabular data until few years back. But things have changed now. Right now, deep learning for tabular data is becoming a huge thing. So even those things, trends are continuously changing. So in terms of data type, I wouldn't make a classification because the trends are changing right now. Deep learning is strongly being with tablet. After tablet, there is gated tab transformers, a lot of deep learning based architectures which are currently used in tablet data. So that is why I wouldn't make a distinction based on data type. And deep learning have always been the best for image and text data type of problems. NLP and computer vision, deep learning have always been the go-to framework. But still now you can't differentiate based on data type just because deep learning is coming up everywhere. Even in tablet data where tree-based models were ruling until few years back, now I think deep learning architectures are ruling. Based on the amount of data, again, for deep learning, I think huge amount of data makes sense. Recently, we had this American Express coming and doing a credit card default prediction competition in Kaggle. It had 1 million data points. So for that kind of a huge data, especially tablet data, I think the transformer-based architectures were the winning solution. And so I think deep learning has started ruling tablet data as well. So this is my broad classification of AI, ML, and DL. This is how I would classify it, but there's a lot more to it as well. I'm just saying it in a simplified way. Most of the organizations have a combination of AutoML and the custom model deployment. So there'll be a different phases of the ML lifecycle might have a different phases. So for certain phases, they might use AutoML. For certain phases, they would prefer custom modeling. So it's a combination of the pattern which I see predominantly is a combination of AutoML and custom architecture. And some companies just go with very famous bank which is see recently. I don't want to take the names. Very famous. If you go to puzzles, then solve this very famous bank which has recently shut down its operations in India, but very huge bank. They use predominantly AutoML for their most of their financial operations. So, and very famous banks, they use H2O.ai. So there are many AutoML frameworks which is being used by the top million, billion-dollar companies and things like that. So AutoML is definitely being used by a lot of enterprises, but they use a combination of wherever custom framework as a better solution or a better choice, they use custom framework and wherever AutoML. So a single company will not have just single use case. They have multiple use cases. So decision is taken at the use case level and at the very micro level. Decision are taken for what use case, how they should approach it. So it's more of a hybrid framework, I would say, at the moment. But AutoML is definitely good. Personal experience with AutoML is, see, there was one Women in Data Science hackathon which is organized by Stanford University every year. And so this Women in Data Science competition 2022, my team was a winner. So I'm from India. I'm the only person from India. Then my three of my teammates are from France. So we won this hackathon. The first prize, I think we won $4,000. And this particular hackathon, it was a 2-month hackathon. We tried a lot of models. We tried custom models. We tried all the tree-based models. We tried AutoMLs. We tried advanced deep learning architects. See, it's 4 people and we have 2 months. So every day we make 5 submissions. We might have tried like 300 things, 300 submissions. The best winning solution was AutoML for us, the highest score, which won us the first place. So we'll be able to see after the competition ended, those 300 submissions which were the highest scoring model, we will be able to see after the competition ends. It will be visible to the team, entire team, but not to the outside world. But for our team internally, we'll be able to see out of all the 300 submissions which gave the highest score, which are the ideas which gave. So AutoML, surprisingly for that use case, it's actually AI for climate change use case, where you have to predict the energy consumed in buildings. It was a US-based data set. For 7 years, they collected in various cities the US building energy usage. And you have to predict the building energy usage based on building characteristics and weather characteristics. You have to predict how much energy is consumed. This is the problem statement for the BITS data thought. And out of our 300 submissions, it was the AutoML which was giving the highest score. There are a lot of AutoML products. Like one of my teammate for us, it's because one of our teammate was working for Prevision.io, which is a France-based AutoML company. So he was able to quickly prototype a lot of new feature. See, AutoML is there in different parts of ML. If you see feature engineering, there are specific AutoML tools. For experiment tracking, there are specific AutoML tools. So for data analysis, there's a different AutoML tools. For data visualization, there are different AutoML tools. So AutoML is a very big umbrella term where you're automating multiple phase of machine learning as well, multiple subsets of machine learning process. So is it an end-to-end AutoML tool or is it for every single phase you have an AutoML tool? What you're using is very specific. Based on those use cases, what people take decision. This is my personal experience with AutoML. I never used to respect AutoML before that much. After the BIS Datathon, my respect for AutoML has gone up. And after Data IQ conference, it has definitely gone up several notch higher. But it's more of a hybrid is what we say. For research organization, my current startup, it is primarily research. So we don't use AutoML at all. It's like primarily coming up with new architectures which we could apply for patents. So there's a lot of architectures you have, XGBoost, yeah, LightGBM, and all these algorithms which you can, with 2-3 lines of code, you can start using these algorithms which is already available for you in the different packages. But we are creating algorithms like that. We're creating some algorithm from the start. That is the primary work for us in my startup. So you have wide set of things. My organization has that kind of a demand because our main job is to apply for patents. So it's primarily research. So we develop algorithms from scratch. So certain organizations, they just want the job to done. And with hiring 50 resources, training all of them, and then 50 resources, 25 will go off suddenly. And then to new resources, again, you have to try. There are, if you're for certain use case for certain organization, that might be a very huge possibility. People keep going and coming based on they don't get hiked for 2 months pandemic. I'm leaving. You don't give hike, bye another company. So people shift like anything. And so that for the certain financial organization that might be a constraint, and they don't want one single person to be the power of control. There could be, and hiring 50 resources, hiring them will take 4 months. Then training them another 4 months and getting them up to level. So there might be different constraints and reasoning behind why these big organizations use Autism based on their use case and their demand and that particular background situation is what is they choose best for that situation is Autism. It's generally hybrid. I've never seen any company survive only with Autism. It's a hybrid with human intervention and things like that.
I work for a French bank in their model risk management team. And recently they have been pushing us to use data IQ a lot.
Society General,
Yeah.
the French bank, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that is one of the, I think, end-to-end enterprise.
Yeah,
Do you think we want to invest that amount of time in learning data IQ and then maybe in some other bank they may be using some other tool?
Any one tool, whatever I've seen, you get to know any one tool. It's the things are very similar under different names. The same thing, you'll have in Google, GCP, they'll call it as under name. The competitor might call it under different name. And so the names are what is going to differ when the process and the way. If you take model monitoring tools for finding your best hyperparameters, GCP has got something called Vizier. Vizier. So Azure might have a different name for it, but the basic thing is you want to find the best hyperparameters in your model. In GCP, you have some tool doing it, and for Azure, you have different tools, and for AWS, you have some tools. There are open source tools like Weights and Biases, Neptune.ai. There are multiple tools for finding the best hyperparameters for your model. So although there are multiple 20, or if you find out for this model tracking and experimentation, there's like the tools which I know are enormous. There's so many open source tools, so many enterprise level tools. Every 2 weeks or every month, one tool is coming in that space. So there are a lot of tools out there. It's really impossible to know every tool in that is one subset of the entire process, which is experiment tracking and hyperparameter, best tuning of your hyperparameters. It's just small subset. For that itself, if you have too many tools, it's really impossible to know every tool in data sets. So just one tool if you focus on and just know that really well. It's a transferable skill. Any new skill or any new tool they throw at you, you'll be able to, the learning curve will be very fast. And data IQ itself, in my perspective, the learning curve is going to be very fast. And because just in the booth, I was able to get in the finals demo, I was able to get a lot of things. So the learning curve, I can't talk about all of AI, data IQ as a product, but whatever they showed me in the booth, it was very fast and you can just learn it super fast. There might be some complex areas which might take some long time, but it's definitely not going to be that rigorous and hard, something which you can pick it up. And that's a transferable skills. Tomorrow they throw a similar end-to-end data science framework at you, you will be picking it up very faster pace. My personal experience, I would say, whatever you are doing, if you're extremely good in that, you'll get paid. I've seen developer advocates get huge pay because they're quite popular. They have built that profile. Evangelists getting huge. There was one data science evangelist. He's from Europe. He had put a post that there was a company who was willing to offer him 300K USD to just get him out of the role. I've observed his transformation as a top data science evangelist in the data science space from a normal employee. I forgot the name of the company where he started. But I've seen his transformation. So in just 2 years span, he became one of the top rated evangelism. His job is he'll take one new open source GitHub repository or some tool which has come out. He'll neatly package it in the form of post. He'll get like 500, 600 likes. But that's very, very important for an organization who's trying to sell its product. If he is getting 4 lakh impression for every or 10 lakh impression for every post he makes, see the amount of people who are getting to know about the company's product because of him. So I think for in that situation, that person is the bread and butter of the entire company. He's what is generating revenue and he's what is selling the business. So he'll get definitely paid. So he's going to get paid very high. Customer facing data scientists in certain companies, it's like if you take an AutoML company, there are so many AutoML companies out there. And even if it's a data IQ or it's going to be GCP's, Vertex AI or whatever it is, a customer facing engineer is going to be the person in a lot of startups and companies who is going to actually go and help the company sign the deal because he's the person who's driving the whole business and going to the level of signing the deal. He's the prime person who's involved in that interacting with the customer. He messes it up. No matter how intelligent you are, if you just get into the ego clash or things with the customer and think the whole team will collapse. You can be some great branded company or whatever it is, the in-person engineer who's actually interfacing with the client can mess up the whole deal if he has poor communication skills. Negotiation skills are very, very critical. On the spot decision making. And there are a lot of important soft skills which is required for, in addition to knowing data science, I think soft skills based one. They sign $1 million deals, multi-million deals. Those are very crucial because, of course, they'll be like very, very high paying jobs, but they will not do any deep level heavy lifting and all that. There are companies like Google Research, Microsoft Research who pay very high for the data science research space because their main aim was to publish a lot of papers in top conferences like Neuro and Neuro IPS and things. So research data scientists get equally paid as well, but they don't have that kind of a popularity like developer advocates or things like that, where the PR team you'll find all the developer advocates very, very famous because they have a lot of PR from the companies and things like that. So do you like popularity or what you like also matters a lot. What do you actually want of your job? Do you want job satisfaction or do you like fan following or what is it? In terms of pay, it is
He made it clear. He just wants money, right?
money. So I think it is depends on what kind of company you are into and what is the bread and butter for that company. The company will pay you well. It's not just a single role. You can't definitely say this is a role which is always paid high across all companies. So based on what is the bread and butter of the company, they pay the candidate. I mean, it's always good to be instead of knowing multiple things, be good in one thing and specialize really, really well in that. A lot of people take this very lightly, but there's a lot of neuroscience and psychology behind it. Since I learned a lot in psychology and neuroscience, don't take this statement very lightly. Be very specialized in one or two things instead of like touching about a lot of things and that there's a lot of psychology and neuroscience behind it. Won't dig into that is what I would say. So yeah.